At Homestead Miami Speedway, it was the driver of Christopher who got himself to victory lane in the first round of the Indy Elite Series. 1 week on, we welcome you to New Hampshire Motor Speedway to an historic race, because it's time for us to say goodbye to the Dallara DW12. Our coverage will start next here on RaceSpotTV, streaming live on iRacing Live and Facebook Live. They call it the Magic Mile. New Hampshire Motor Speedway, welcome to round number 2 of the Indy Elite Series here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live, a part of RaceSpotTV's Road to the 500 and the month of May. Will Vincent along with Randy Chernoff here, and well, Randy, they call it the Magic Mile. It's a hard racetrack, however. They raced here last, of course, in 2011. Have you got your double birds ready?
Yeah, I do indeed. A little bit of rain, perhaps, and a bit of a pile up, but it's a slippery place out there. It might feel like that track's wet. I see a lot of people struggling in qualifying, Will, coming off corner number 2. A lot of people struggling with the rear grip. Josh Chin put that car on the wall. He'll be starting from the back. So, going to be an interesting race and probably a day filled of attrition.
Yeah, and there's the weather conditions here today. 27 degrees, air temperature, 48% race relative humidity, partially cloudy with some winds of about 7 kilometers an hour. Track measures just a tiny bit over a mile. So we're actually racing for a bit more than 150 miles here today, Randy. And, well, the track itself, it's a tough one. It's got stepped banking. Last week we were talking about the parabolic banking. Today we're going to be talking about the step banking. 4 over 7th grade, which you have no idea what that means unless basically you've done a maths degree.
Yeah, unless you've done a maths degree and potentially even got a degree in town planning, which I know that you do, Wilt, so you know exactly what that means, I'm sure. But yeah, the step banking, very weird. Further up the racetrack, things get a little bit flatter. We see that in some dirt tracks in the United States, not typically something you see on the asphalt. Normally you'd call that upper groove the shelf, at least on the American dirt track scene. But regardless, it's a very interesting racetrack with a very interesting groove here at New Hampshire. It's one of those things that even in the stock cars, the actual fast line around this place always sort of been really interesting to me as we see people continue to go out there in qualifying, and about midway through this session, still a handful of names still to go.
Yeah, so we've got 4 minutes remaining in qualifying. We're having a look at Henry Bennett there, and that kind of sums it up. You've got the two different asphalt strips as well on the inside half of the turns and the outside half of the turns. You kind of want to be running it in and around the third lane if you want to be ultra successful. The first lane is pretty much no-go, Randy, because it's that flat. It's pretty much actually used to be around the pit entrance. You know what I mean. But you really want to be running it in around the second, third groove. Go up high, you've got to have your car set up to go up high. You've got to have your car set up if you want to go down low as well. So it's a case of compromise here today.
We see Henry Bennett as he's out there in that 007 machine. He is running that open groove, or that upper groove, excuse me, here in qualifying. He's already done his qualifying lap as a 22-1 and pretty much doing, I think, a little bit of just testing here, trying to make something that'll be stable off of that second corner in race trim. And he seems to just like to keep it all the way up on that racetrack in that grip strip along the top, that newer, darker pavement. And it looks to be working out fairly decent for him. Not sure what the lap times are because he's already exceeded his laps, so the sim doesn't actually register them as lap times. But it's an interesting groove nonetheless. I think we have Niall McBride out there. He's already run qualifying laps. They were just waiting on a couple people, maybe even people that had accidents on their qualifying, so this might be the final starting results.
Yeah, and of course, we're going to talk about one thing as well. This is the last race for the DW12 in the Indy Elite Series, and really, outside of maybe the Classic IndyCar Series heading over to the DW12 maybe next year or the year afterwards, one of the last times we're going to be seeing the DW12 here on iRacing. And well, it was, of course, back in 2012 when this car came out. The DW stands for Dan Weldon, who lost his life at Las Vegas Motor Speedway after being the main tester for this car. And, well, the DW12 was designed to work at a variety of racetracks, better than the IR 03, 05, 09. Call it what you will over the years. And, well, when the IR5 came out, you know, it was designed primarily to run on ovals. They designed the IR 09 to be better in terms of road courses. This was the first true multi-purpose IndyCar.
Yeah, it really was the first one in a while for sure. And it put on some interesting racing. This car, I think it had the chance to be really good, but it sort of went through a lot of weird phases of IndyCar. There was, we're going to have multiple manufacturers, and then we're not. It sort of got, there was a weird jumble time of IndyCar from when this car came out to now when it's getting phased out. And we've going back and resettling on the spec aero kit in the IR18. Has its pluses, has its minuses, but overall, I think the W12, the DW12 rather, it was an interesting concept that did some interesting things that was around in one of the more controversial iterations of IndyCar in this part of the decade.
Yeah, thanks, Randy Bernard. It was great. But one thing that's worth noting as well is that there were actually 3 different manufacturers at one point using the DW12. You've, of course, got yourself Honda and Chevy. Lotus ran it for a year. Not too much success, of course. And, well, the aero kits as well, you know, that was an interesting thing, going from road courses to speedways to super speedways, of course. But now we're in a situation that the IR18 will come out on Tuesday. And we're excited, Randy.
We all are. You mentioned the Classic IndyCar Series. I honestly hope they keep with that IR05 for a while.
Yes.
This car is just so new. It doesn't have that old feel that the IR05 is going to, at least for, I think, several seasons. So if they choose to do that, Mr. Mikhail Constantini, I see him in the chat. He better do that. But I'm super excited for the IR18, and that's one of the reasons we've decided to continue bringing you this championship, is we want to see how that car evolves, and we need to be very well educated on it before we get to the month of May. I don't want to feel like a fool in the 97 Indy 500s we're broadcasting in May.
Yeah, indeed so. And, of course, one of those will be here in the Indy Elite Series. We've also got, of course, the official iRacing Indianapolis 500. We're going to have ourselves the Classic IndyCar Series Indy 500. We've got the Pack Majors Indy 500. I'm sure I've missed one out along the way as well. But let's turn our attention to this event. This is round number 2 of the Indy Elite Series from New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Qualifying is now in the books, and that means we'll get a chance to have a look at your qualifying order for the second round of the championship. And it is Christian Steele starting out front there. Number 2 machine in P number 1. With Niall McBride alongside him on that front row of the grid. Tony Hellman then in P number 3. Simon Bryan in that second row along with him as well. It's an all-British third row of the grid with Liam Quinn and Henry Bennett in that third row. Joe Branch in P number 7 of Jose Crescente on the outside of that fourth row. Row number 5 will come down to Bradley Walters and Tim Holgate. Holgate, another poor qualifying then for the reigning defending series champion. Row 6 is Adam Plunkett and the effing hippie, James McClure. As we go back to row number 7, Andrew Wood and Tanner Watkins. Chad Simpson, John Downing then in row number 8. Row 9, down the end, Kevin Williams. Row 10, Michael Peters, Joshua Chin. Chin's going to have a lot of work to do if he wants to get himself in the hunt for a championship. Then row number 11, Adam Dock, Andreas Eek. Row number 12, Brandon Lichtenberg. And your winner from Homestead Miami Speedway, Chris Stouffer, starting second from last, Randy.
Yeah, that's big, and there's a lot of people in this race. Well, we normally talk about the fact that on these kind of 1 mile-ish ovals, you get it at Richmond, you get it at Phoenix, you get it here at Homestead, Milwaukee, famous the Aero Push, and how difficult it is to actually race these cars. It can be so one groove so much of the time. However, you have so many fast names at the back end of the field who kind of failed their qualifying, struggling with turn 2. You got Josh Chin, Brendan Lichtenberg, Tim Holgate, Bradley Walters. I think those two as well, a little bit further back than they should be. I think we're going to see an insane mid-pack and a handful of fast guys. I think within the first 20 laps will be out of this event.
Yeah, attrition is always a big factor here at Homestead, New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Let's take you to the front of the field, shall we, and have a look at the driver of Christian Steele. There you can see him on track right now. There he is. One pace lap before we get going here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. There is Steele, number 2 machine. 25 drivers then, 150 laps around New Hampshire Motor Speedway to get ourselves ready on the road to the 500 here in the Indy Elite Series. Pace car going to pull off on the exit of turn number 4. And we are going to get round number 2 of this championship underway. Welcome to New Hampshire. Early jump, green flag in the air. There goes Christian Steele. He wants none of the funny business at the start.
Plenty of clean air for Christian, but everyone else is going to be having to deal with this dirty air. And how are they going to affect people off turn 2? A lot of spinners on their qualifying laps, but everyone on their race trim seems through clean through corner number 2 as they head into 3 and 4 for the first time.
Yep, so it is out front, the driver of Christian Steele. He gets the advantage and restarts with a big thing at Homestead Miami Speedway. It's a big thing again here today, because Steele are already to an 0.8 of a second advantage. Well, actually, that's not necessarily a bad thing for P number 2, Tony Holman, because the last thing you want to do is be stuck behind a driver on a long green flag stint here. We're going to see a lot of jostling early, I think, as drivers try to get themselves some clean air.
That's the big thing, is it doesn't really matter. Yeah, everyone wants to go out and catch that guy that's out in front of him, but the dirty air is so important on these tight racetracks that it's just hard to really keep things consistent overway through. It's just better to get about a second or so back, get yourself some clean air, manage the tires, and that's going to be the big talking point in this one. We talked about tires at Homestead. Tire wear today is going to be insane.
Yeah, live timing and scoring is available, ladies and gentlemen. Just visit RaceSpot.tv/timing. On board with Liam Quinn, actually. Battles going on ahead of him. That's Henry Bennett and Jose Crescente. Good start today by that driver of Jose Crescente, but look how close they are together. Multiple lines, 2 wide, going to be 2 deep coming out of corner number 4, and that is going to be Joe Branch, Tim Holgate, all there in the mix together, and at the rear of that one, you've got Tim Holgate trying to take it easy.
And he's trying, I think, to just sort of cruise, but at the same time, he wants to move his way forward. Going to kind of look down to the third line. Is Tim really going to think about making this 3 wide into 3? Indeed, he does for a moment. Bradley Walters ejects up to the upper groove, and Holgate, not a lot of space down to the bottom. We got a spinner on the front straightaway, and I think Bradley Walters has a piece of that. There's a big, big pile up in your mid-pack.
Yeah, Bradley Walters is out. Jose Crescente is involved as well. He's on his lid. Replay coming up for you now.
What a big, big incident there. So much trouble coming here early. And I sort of said it. I thought that was some of the people struggling with qualifying. We might see a handful of drivers end up getting themselves out of this event early. And, well, unfortunately for Bradley Walt, actually, no, it wasn't Bradley.
It was Crescente that started it.
No, it was him that started it. It was Adam Plunkett who's in that blue and white cart. One of, I believe, the teammates of Walters. But so Walters is still in it. And I think Plunkett sort of got away with light damage as well. Yeah.
So here we are then. Caution number 1 here today at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. 7 laps into 150. Well, fuel is going to be less of an issue than what we saw last time out. However, the question's going to be, is anyone going to be risky and come on towards pit road on this first caution? We're going to keep an eye out. No one in P number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh,
Holgate.
There's our first one. Holgate, first driver in.
A handful of drivers decide to make the call. Shin's going to stay out, and that's going to be big. He's going to pick up a number of spots. He was up +8 already on this rate, but Holgate, Plunkett, I think those are the 2 big ones. Tanner Watkins as well. Chris Stouffer also in pit lane getting some fresh tires. Adam Dock. So a number of competitive names on pit road getting service here early.
Yeah, but Christian Steele is going to be continuing to lead the field around for the time being. There we can see as well, Christian Steele coming out with the pole position here today. There's the drivers that are coming out of pit road. Holgate, Watkins, Plunkett, Stouffer, McClure, Dock, Simpson, Kinsella, Eek, and Peters all pitted. Biggest loser out of that train was Adam Plunkett, down 4 positions. Holgate restarting 13th. Well, we had to start from the mid-pack at the start of this motor race. You might as well just do the same thing again.
Yeah, that is something you can really, kind of think about, is just sort of, yeah, we're going to be on this, as I see Will doesn't have the picture-in-picture graphic quite correct, so that's quite hilarious. But yeah, it is one of those things that I don't actually think if I would really want to be starting in this mid-pack. Yeah, I got new tires. I might be able to drive my way through, but look at the trouble we got in early after only 7 laps, and we saw what happens if you get stuck in the mid-pack. Cost the likes of Christian Steele and Josh Chin a win last week. I think I value track position at this place more than 7-lap old tires.
Yeah, indeed so. So there is a look at your top 8 for the moment. Christian Steele, Simon Bryant, Tony Holman, Nell McBride, Henry Bennett, Joe Branchley, and Quinn Bradley Walters. One thing that's worth noting here, Randy, some of these drivers who were mid-pack runners last season having a good start to the season. Holman, for example, one of them. Simon Bryant, another one as well. Henry Bennett is up there in that 007. We saw him doing a bit of practice post-qualifying. So it's a much tougher field by the looks of it compared to this time last year.
Yeah, it is. It's a really tough field, and I think we might see some other people get really, really strong with the IR-18 as pace car is off, and Steele going to bring us back to green.
Yeah, there we are then. Quicker cautions than last week. Green flag back in the air. Here we go again. In towards turn number 1. Side-by-side running with Kevin Williams and Joshua Chin. Chin around the outside. He's got that position locked up already. He's into P number 9. And, well, yellow.
That didn't take long.
Jim McClure, 09 machine. He's turned around. I don't see any damage to that car. Let's have a look. Loop-de-loop by himself. There's a little bit of damage to the front wing of that car. I'm wondering whether that's what made him spin around. Yeah.
Kind of spun around, and he sort of slid the back into, it's actually the wall that kind of guards the tunnel that goes under the racetrack, and maybe a little bit. It looked to me, though, Will, like he just sort of straddled kind of the seam that we talk about that at a handful of other racetracks. At Auto Club, it's a big talking point. I think he just sort of got stuck on those 2 parts of banking and pretty much upset the car, and that's what sent it around.
Right, we're going to take a quick break here, ladies and gentlemen, on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. We'll be back in just a moment. Yes, the outside line through the final corner for the final time. Once again, photo finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMeritt at the line. Yeah, the hype is real. The Dallara IR18 comes out Tuesday. And if you've bought the Dallara DW12 in the last 6 months, well, you get basically the car for free through rebate. For everyone else, it'll cost you $11.95. Of course, so 100% membership and everything else will go and help you along with that one. Getting ready for the restart. Let's do this one on board with Christian Steele. Clean a restart, Randy. Everyone through. And, well, no one really came on towards pit road worth their salt that last time by. Your top three are the same as they were. Although behind, we've got a battle going on. As, well, Norbert Bride and Henry Bennett are going at it. I also saw Bradley Walters, Liam Quinn. They are having a battle as well.
A lot of battles up and down the field, especially with the bit of tire strategy we have. A couple cars did come down pit road on that last little short run. Well, one or two, I think, mostly getting damage repaired. But down the front straight, they come once again. Josh Chin, who was up to 9th, he's now fallen back to 10th, and we got caution again.
And this one is Andrew Wood. He'd already had...
A big one.
Yeah. He already had been involved in an incident once here today. Let's have a look on board of him. Number 32 machine. Okay, he made a classic New Hampshire mistake. Once you're in a lane, stay in it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really the big thing, isn't it? Especially in these Indy cars on a lot of these tracks that have grooves. We see it Pocono too. We talked about it at Fontana. You can't, these cars are so aero sensitive that you can't go throwing the ride heights all over the place by moving up or down the field. And, well, it's just that one little mistake, and that turns you around and throws you up into the wall, and we're under a quick caution once again.
Yeah, and of course, it's not the only car coming out. We've got an Audi coming out this coming week, and we've also got this. And that's all I'm allowed to show, Randy.
That's the iRacing logo, and ooh, some interesting strategy. I don't know. I don't understand this. I don't know if I like this. We have a couple cars out in front that are pitting. Tony Heilman from 4th. Also have, who is that? Joe Branch from 6th. I don't think I like this call, Will, from these guys at all. We've only run about 2 laps on these tires. I don't like giving up the track position this early, and for that new of tires, it's not going to be enough of an advantage to really matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, so we've got Heilman on pit road. We've got Joe Branch on pit road as well. And there's Heilman coming out of pit road. Stays ahead of Joe Branch.
No big, really, I think, surprise there. They both look clean into their box, look pretty much perfect. The big talking point, though, is going to be monitoring sort of the tail end of this top 10 wheel, because I think Josh Chin is sort of the last car we've had on the racetrack who has yet to take tires. So for him, it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to hold those guys off. We saw him in a couple battles on the start of that restart. Did a good job to hold on to that position and salvage that 9th place for now, but how is his tires going to start to drop off compared to those guys that a few cautions ago?
You see, we joke about this being also practice for us in terms of preparing for the iRacing Indy 500. Well, these caution periods, you know, it's a time for us to try and come up with something to talk about.
Yeah, it really is. It's one of the unfortunate things about these sort of ovals is that some of the people really struggle with them because the setups is sort of can be a little bit difficult to make work and get right, and you know, we do have to find some things to talk about. Unfortunately, we haven't had enough green flag running to really have any strategies really come through. There's a handful of guys that pit after 7 laps, but you can only rant about that for so long.
Yeah, and as the lights stay on, the iRacing first safety car. Well, we've got to talk about a couple of drivers, and this mid-pack right now is stacked. You've got Joshua Chin, Tim Holgate, Brandon Lichtenberg, P number 8, 9, and 10. That's going to be fun to watch in this restart.
Yeah, there is so much talent spread up through this field, and we talked about that with a number of drivers struggling in qualifying. And with some of the strategy, you talk about 8th, 9th, and 10th, like you said, Chin, Holgate, Lichtenberg, you're talking potential champions there. There's a talent right there at the tail end of the top 10. You have Joe Branch, Tony Heilemann, Chris Stouffer, last week's winner, Tanner Watkins, handful of guys in that top 15 outside of the top 10. I think the big thing, Will, though, is that Christian Steele, second time on pole position and in a situation to potentially control this race. Will he have something that takes the race win from him like we saw last week at Homestead?
Yeah, and again, strategy and tyre wear will be the two big things for Christian Steele here today. He can't get complacent. Simon Bryant right behind him. Nell McBride now on 3rd because, of course, as we talked about, we've had going to the rear due to pit stops. I say the rear, it's not that bad. It's 14th place with Tony Holman. After making that pit stop, Joe Branch will restart in 15th. That is you up to speed. Christian Steele. He's been fantastic on these restarts all day long. Working himself out of turn number 4. Predict it if you can, Simon Bryant. Because here we go one more time.
To be a fairly clean restart all the way up and down the field as they hit up towards 1 and 2. Everyone's still opting for that upper lane, as you'd suspect. They're 3 wide in the back. I think that was Josh Chin, Tim Holgate, maybe Brendan Lichtenberg. No, that was actually Kevin Williams, who Josh Williams is trying to get a run on. He's going to try it into 3 and 4. Going to go down to the lower groove, but we've not seen that line really work, and Josh falls back because of it.
Josh Williams, did you say?
No, Kevin Williams.
You said Josh Williams. You blew it.
I am an idiot, I will confirm.
Yeah, Joshua Chin, though, is behind Kevin Williams right now as they again work themselves out of corner number 2, down towards 3 and 4. Chin is, well, that's the issue. When you push up high and then come down low like Kevin Williams, there really is no lane for you at all. It's just having a look. Oh, yellow again.
Yellow again. Oh, big one. Adam Dock's involved in this one. Who else? Chris Stouffer, last week's winner.
Oh.
He's not going to repeat.
On board with Stouffer.
He's the one we just saw on pit road.
This is why you don't often pit when you're towards the front of the field. And Stouffer, that was a hard one into the wall.
I think it was him and Branch, the 2 cars that both pit from out in front. I think those are the 2 that got into each other.
Yeah, because it looks as though Branch is out. Let's have a look on board of him. There's Stouffer. Goodbye.
Unfortunate right there, the 2 cars. And how fitting is that? I say I don't like that, and they take each other out.
Yeah, but you're so right, though, as Holgate is in 9th place, Chin's in 8th, but the issue is you restart in the middle, you're going to have to make it work on the racetrack. And some of these guys, I don't think their setup's perfect, and they've not got a setup which is good enough to run anywhere on the racetrack.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing, that we talked about this track temperature. It's 113 degrees Fahrenheit, which is really up there, even with the partly cloudy conditions. So these guys are going to be struggling, and that's going to be the main talking point. And really, that's where we've seen people have issues. It's not the entry to the corner. It's not the center of the corner. It's been off the corner, and specifically turn 2. But that said, turn 4 has claimed a couple victims, and you've seen a couple of guys just out there struggling a little bit. Well, hopefully we can get some green flag running. I never like to say this, but maybe we can thin the herd a bit and eventually get a long run in. That's what I think is going to happen. We're going to have these cautions, then something's going to click, and then we're going to go like 90 laps without a caution.
Yeah, Tanner Watkins leading the drivers that did pit off of pit road. I say that. Did he actually come into his... He didn't come into his box. He just drove through pit road there to Tanner Watkins. He's still got no front wing.
He's playing 4D chess.
Yeah. Okay, well, there's Tanner Watkins. You can see Adam Dock moves up 1 place. Jim McClure moves down 1 position. So Christian Steele still leads out from Simon McBride. Noel McBride in 3rd. Henry McBride in 4th. And Liam Quinn running out your top 5. Don't forget, tomorrow night, it is Monday Night Skippies in support of the Calm Zone. Final round of this season. And, well, we had an absolute barnstormer on Sunday Night Skippies, and Monday Night Skippies always proves to be just as fun, Randy.
Skip Barber has just, in general, put together some of the best content we have, whether it's Monday Night Skippies or the Wednesday official Skip Barber broadcast we were doing. Those cars, we just put together and make for some awesome racing on the iRacing service, and there's a few reasons for it, but I think it's just the fact that they generate such low top speeds but generate so much drag for the slipstreaming. When a track like Brands Hatch turns into a potential draft track, you're going to have an exciting racing always.
Yeah, and then, of course, on Saturday, we've got ourselves the 12 hours of Sebring. No LMP1s in this one. We've got to say it over and over again, because that's basically all the comment section's going to be, Randy. It is under IMSA rules, not WEC rules, but it'll still be a fantastic 12-hour event.
That it is IMSA rules. So Daytona Prototype, C7, GTE cars, and GT3, and that's going to be a nifty little teaser, because a couple weeks after that we'll have the round 2 of the Blancpain GT Championship that's taking place at that track. Now we'll only have 3 of the GT3 cars in the Ferrari, the Mercedes, and the Audi. So we're not going to have the BMW that everyone, or about half the grid is in, but we'll see that Audi, and we'll see what the BOP adjustments have done to that Mercedes. That's going to be the big thing, because that's getting a bit of a buff, let's say, coming on Tuesday, and that's going to be really interesting to watch over a 12-hour event.
So lots of big action. I'm going to try and do all 12 hours again.
Rip you.
Yeah, I know, right? It's going to be a busy week for RaceSpotTV. New content. If you randomly see some stuff on the RaceSpotTV YouTube page, it's because, well, we've just got some guys having some fun off of turn number 4. Will come that pace car. Caution number 4 in the books. Green flag in the air. Let's go one more time, Randy.
Off towards 1 and 2. The leaders have been playing really nice with one another. It's a decent restart for Simon Bryant, doing much better than he did last week at Homestead, I'm noticing, Will, but hasn't really been able to do anything with it. And that said, even here at New Hampshire, you don't often want to be tucked right under the rear wing of someone, so maybe not as much of a penalty for being slow on the restarts regardless. We got a little bit of challenge for position. That's Brad Walters. He hops to the inside of the 44. Liam Quinn off of corner number 4. Can he carry that momentum through 1 and 2? And he's got it almost hooked up, but can't slide up in front of him.
He can now. I'll tell you what, a lap ago we saw Joshua Chin run that bottom line and completely have to slow down. And the driver, Kevin Williams, went past like he was absolutely standing still. So it's showing the bottom line isn't working that well. It is, as we talked about at the top of the broadcast, the middle to upper part of the racetrack. I'm surprised the upper lane is working so well here today, to be fair.
I think it's just the weather. That's the only thing I can think of. Because of that hot temperature, his tires don't quite have enough grip to keep it pinned down near that yellow line as they come down the front straightaway. And Josh tucked onto the rear wing of Kevin Williams. Kevin defends the inside, and Josh is going to say, thank you very much. I'm going to hop up to the top. I'm not sure what Kevin's thinking there, but Josh is going to pick up an easy position. I don't know why you would defend the inside when the top is where you want to be.
Yeah, that was... Unless Williams wanted to give Chin the position.
Yeah, that's possible as well.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that is coming to my head right now. We're going to have a chat, of course, with Joe Branch in a moment. He's out of the race early. Back at the front of your field, you've got Henry Bennett, Bradley Walters going at it. Walters up into 4th. Walters is looking fantastic at the moment.
Yeah, that he is. Walters is looking very, very good. Henry Bennett's looking very good. The thing that I think that's really interesting right now is the fact that all your front runners are starting to really get racy. You got the likes of Josh Chin moving through the field. Liam Quinn's been making some moves. Henry Bennett as well. There's a number of guys who are comfortable in getting racy on this hot and slick New Hampshire Speedway.
Yeah, so Joe Branch is here with us for the moment in the RaceSpotTV booth. And well, Joe, second round of the championship, clearly didn't go the way you planned.
No, I want to apologize to Christopher. I lost connection. We've been chatting in chat. He sent me a replay, and it's basically just me hitting him. I had no cars on my screen. I was getting booted from the server, so I never lost TeamSpeak, so it seemed to be something on the iRacing side, and I haven't had an internet issue in forever.
Well, second round of the championship, it seems to be that the outside line's working better than the inside. How hard is the racing out there?
I mean, it's obviously very difficult. I mean, luckily, a bunch of good guys. From watching the beginning of practice, none of us could even keep it on track, and everybody started to figure it out as the practice went on. It's as hot of conditions as you'll find on the server, so just sucks. I didn't want to take anybody out, and I definitely, I don't know, it's frustrating. Internet issues.
Not a good way for you to finish life with the DW12. Of course, though, next time out, it'll be the IR18.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I think everybody is. So, barring any major glitches with the release of the car or anything, we should be running it at Milwaukee.
Well, thank you very much there, Joe Branch. Not the race he would have wanted, but I talked about Bradley Walters charging. He's up into 3rd, side by side on Albert Bride right now.
He's going to go into 3 and 4, and you see the fact McBride all the way up against that wall. As these tires get older, you might see a couple different lines come in. And look at Walters. That car is hooked up. That's the first low pass we've seen work all day, and he puts himself into a podium position.
Yep. And he's 1.7 seconds behind Simon Bryan. This is what I talked about earlier, but didn't really get the chance to talk about it too much. Clean air is so important here that as Albert Bride goes back down to the inside of the driver of Walters, that if you can keep clean air on that car, your tyres will last about 20 laps longer. We've got a car on towards pit road right now. That is Kevin Williams. That doesn't look scheduled.
Yeah, that's not going to be scheduled whatsoever, as he's going to come down and get some service, maybe calling it a day here. But no, he's still in his box, probably getting repairs. That's a long stop for him as fighting continues out there on the racetrack. Josh Chin just put the 007 as Henry Bennett in his rearview mirrors, and now he's going to go looking towards that 41 on Al McBride. So a number of the guys who started mid-pack and lower doing a good job to work their way through the field cleanly. Tim Holgate, since he came down pit road and went to the back of the field, he currently runs 8. Brennan Lichtenberg following him through as well. Also have Downing, Plunkett, Kinsella, and Doc in that little group.
Yep, so there is the driver of Bradley Walters. He's actually lost a bit of time to your 2 drivers. I want to show you the lap times here. He lost, I mean, this is unassailable. 9/1000ths of a second, Randy.
That's nearly as bad as Josh Rogers not doing a 58 yesterday. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, completely. As they work out corner number 3 and 4 again behind Josh Chin up into 4th place now, but Bride currently running in 5th. So we talk about Bradley Walters quite a lot, as he actually takes 2.5 tenths that time by out of Bryant. But Chin's got that car finally working. Oh my word, he's into the wall.
Oh no, that's a cruel joke. As you said it, we saw Josh struggling in qualifying. He bailed out of a couple of his laps because of that struggling off of turn 2, and he just makes the mistake, and that's going to be day done. He takes sort of the infield road course to stay off the racing line, but that's heavy damage to that number 93 Team Chimera car.
Yeah, I wonder how hard he actually hurt that front suspension, because it was a very straight hit to the car. So he's coming in towards pit road right now. He's pulling it in, and he's going to try and get some repairs to that car, but I'm wondering, yeah, he's out. Game over.
Yeah, that was a big hit, and I don't really blame him. He's going to be so far on the back foot that, man, this is just like the Gathering of Tweakers series, Will. You just jinxing people.
Yeah, that just, I'm sorry. But there we are. Let's go back to the front of your field there, because Bradley Walters is continuing to close over the driver of Simon Bryant. Although, worth noting that everyone's doing what I expected them to do right now. Your top 7 drivers have all got about 7/10 of a second between them. And that's that. Come on, guys. I just want a bit of clean air on the front of my car.
Yep, clean air is a big thing here, but fight for the race lead's getting close. Down under 0.2 of a second. So that 22 machine of Simon Bryant finding a bit of pace, and his teammate of Bradley Walters is still trying to reel that gap down, but they're sort of trading lap times back and forth. Simon's going to have a look on Christian Steele in towards 3 and 4. 2 car up to the top. 22 not able to work the bottom, as well as he saw his teammate doing a little bit ago.
Oh, he's on pit road.
Interesting.
Scheduled stop, maybe?
Fuel? Yeah, that I would be inclined to believe that 22 machine is likely on a scheduled stop and is likely at the early stage of the fuel window, and because of that, he's likely essentially doing the short fill.
Yep, so let's have a look then as he brings that car into his pit box. There is Simon Bryant. As we've got ourselves staying out, Christian Steele. Now, you do lose at least a lap here by pitting under green. Out and away, 8.2. Got to be careful. Reset the weight jacker. Reset the anti-roll bars. Don't merge too early. Wait until that line goes dashed. And that's exactly what happened. Simon Bryant then back out onto track. And he's kind of merged in a lot of traffic. And that's not what you would have wanted. But he's going to have so fresh tyres, he should be able to really go through them right now. Going to have a chat with Joshua Chin in a moment's time here on RaceSpotTV, but let's keep our eye out on Christian Steele for the moment. Works himself through turn number 3 and 4. He stays out, and he's done 50 laps now on this set of tyres.
I think this is a good call by Steele, because there's enough people in the mid-pack haven't pit, I think, to really warrant it. I think that 22 car called it a bit early. We also had the 56 of Bradley Walters. He was running second. He's now down on towards the pit road, and we saw the sort of traffic that Simon Bryant came out into. I don't think that Christian is really keen on this. And keep in mind what happened to Christian Steele last week. He went with the early pit strategy, caution flew, and it robbed him of a race win in a race that he was dominating. As we have another car down on towards pit road. That's John Downing, teammate of Walters, as well as that 22 machine of Simon Bryant. So those guys all in the same strategy. Steele, he looks keen on staying out.
Yep. Josh Chin is here. Josh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It happens.
What happened from your perspective?
The car was really fast, and I was moving up and just kind of conserving. I think a lot of people burned off some of their stuff on the earlier 1 or 2 lap runs. I can't really even call them runs, but I was just making my way up through. The car was really nice. I was running faster than Christian and Niall, so I'm like, oh, okay, I got a good shot to go up in there and get it. And I got off turn 2 and just hit the gas a little bit too much and had too much wheel, and it said, no, not today. And I thought I was going to save it and maybe have it snap back right, and it just did a straight line in the wall and too much damage.
There's a couple of drivers that have come on towards pit road about 50 laps in. We've seen them running traffic quite a bit. What do you think the tyre life difference is between running in clean air and running in traffic?
I'll be honest, it really doesn't seem like that much, because the main issue we have is coming out of 2 and 4. You just have to have a lot of wheel in it, and it'll snap sometimes, and it just kind of takes its toll on the tires. But overall, the tires, they're not wearing that much. They're just getting really hot, which is why I think, I was running easy the first 5 laps of that run, and it worked out pretty well, because the back half of that, I was making up a lot of time.
Well, thank you very much, Josh Chin. As we see the number 22 machine trying to unlap himself over Brendan Lichtenberg, and this is where you can be a bit of an A, shall I say, Randy. If you want to keep people pinning the lap down, because this is your competition, this is where you can run them really hard.
Yeah, and that's a good call. This is a good option here by Brendan Lichtenberg, not letting that 22 machine just fly by, knowing that is someone he's potentially racing as he go towards 1 and 2, and Brian's going to toss it up to the top side of the racetrack and get it done after a handful of laps of struggling. Adam Plunkett will be the next driver. Actually, no, that's for position between him and Lichtenberg, so I take that back. The 2 machine hit pit road.
Yep, so there is Steely. He's on pit road. He is out of pit road. And that pit stop time for him, 9.1 seconds. Where does he re-emerge? behind Simon, Brian, and Bradley Walters. We expected that, though.
Yeah, we did. With the little bit of a short stop, we expected that 22 machine to have that race lead. However, Will, I don't know if Christian really ran enough laps. When did Simon Bryant come down pit road? Lap number, I think, was about lap number 39. As I take a look, it's 47 is when Bryant came down pit road. We're now running lap number 58, 59. So it's only about 10 laps for Christian. I think he needed another 5 or 7 or so to really let that 22 machine burn off his stuff just that little bit more, because it's one of those things where, yeah, if someone comes down pit road, they're going to have the undercut, but if you don't wait long enough, there won't be the phase where they're on old tires and you're on new.
And we can see for everyone else that everyone's coming in. By the way, I like how you're taking a mickey out of me last week for pulling numbers out my backside. Now you're doing exactly the same thing.
Hey, you got to do something, man. And I see it in the NASCAR stuff all the time, and it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, true. Henry Bennett then on towards pit road, doing his service. Tim Holgate then becomes your race leader. He's 53 laps into his stint. He'll be on pit road in about 6 laps time by our estimates.
Yeah, something like that. We saw him go with one of those early pit stops, so he'll be able to go a little bit longer, but how long is he really going to want to push it with these tires as he heads into towards corners number 3 and 4? He's going to come off here. He's also one of the ones last week who got caught out, and he's actually on pit road now. So let's see where he comes out in relation to everybody. I think we're expecting that 22 machine to be your race leader.
Okay, let's have a look. As we're on board, of course, you can see the lane time for Tim Holgate as we're on board of him on the left-hand side of your screen. On the right-hand side of your screen, you can see Simon Bryant, unless, of course, you're watching on Facebook, in which case, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a rip. Unfortunately,
it's why you should watch it in 1080p on YouTube, to be fair.
Yeah, 1080p, DVR, have the chat. What else could you want?
As out of the way comes Tim Holgate, 8.4 seconds then as he's back out on track. P number 11 for him. However, he's going to have about 14, 15 lap pressure tyres. Now, what's interesting here, Plunkett, Kinsella, Doc, they are your leading duo. You've got 7 drivers on the lead lap right now. I'm going to pull this graphic up for you, Randy. There's a yellow now. Things get really interesting.
Well, things get crazy because you're talking Plunkett, Kinsella, Doc, Heilemann, Elk, Ench, and Bryant as the drivers on the lead lap. Christian Steele is still 1 lap down, and I have to say, if that were to happen, I think the 22 machine has to be the favorite.
Yeah, although Plunkett's now come on towards pit road, so it brings a lot of these drivers back onto now the lead lap. So there is Adam Plunkett coming on towards pit road. We almost had a, what is it, Richmond 2009 situation there?
Something like that. I think so. I'm not quite the encyclopedia of all sorts of racing knowledge as you are. I'm a little bit more, well, I'm a little bit on the endurance side of stuff, but not as much on IndyCar, and certainly not Formula One the way you and Paul are like, oh yeah, it was the 1942 Monaco Grand Prix that was done while, you know, they were invading whatever beaches.
I don't know whether I wanted to give you that one, because Monaco was one of the first Grand Prix ever. However, of course, Formula One didn't have Formula One World Championship Series and Grand Prix didn't exist until 1950.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to have a Formula One European-based championship while all of Europe is literally killing each other.
Yeah, I think it was like 1935, I think, for Monaco. I'm literally pulling something out of my backside there as Andrew Kinsella is on pit road right now. Pit stop time for him. 9 seconds out and away. Off he goes in that number 14 machine.
Well, I'll give you this. As he comes off pit road and gets himself back out there, does the 14 machine of Kinsella. You were close, 1929.
Close enough. You were doing the same thing I was about to do when I stopped talking. Stop fact-checking me. That's fake news, Randy. All fake news.
Listen. Let's not turn this into an InfoWars broadcast before we get in trouble.
Yeah, as Adam Dock right now is just being unlapped by the driver of as he's going to lose the race lead actually to Tony Helmerman at the same time. So that's Niall McBride initially who worked past, and because of that it meant that Tony Helmerman was able to go down to the inside, as though Adam Dock decided that it's time for him to bring that car on towards pit road.
Yep, opting to come down and get some fuel in that thing, and I think it's sort of awkward, isn't it? They're sort of on the brink of being able to potentially make this, and I think that's what these guys out in front are really waiting for. Will, you're talking lap number 70 right now for Tony Heilemann. You're 5 laps shy of being able to make it halfway, potentially push it to the end. That's the strategy call drivers are trying to make, and Heilemann is going to go around another time, continue trying to push this advantage.
The issue for Heilemann is, I think, is if it goes green, and this race now has a green field to it, this is the longest green flag run we've had by far here today. He needs to at least do 2 more pit stops. Everyone else will need to do 1 more pit stop to the end. Heilemann, after being in P number 2 early on, this is exactly what you meant. He comes on towards pit road. You weren't happy with that strategy call when he came in, and it's coming back to bite him.
Yeah, it wasn't great. I didn't really dig it, and it's not really panning out. He's going to come down pit road. Andres Elk, he's going to be the driver who recycles back into that race lead now. As we got a car around, I believe that's Brendan Lichtenberg off of turn 2. We stay green, but that 12 machine broken arrow car, he was facing the wrong way.
Oh my, that could have been the caution that saved Tony Heilemann in there. Brendan Lichtenberg, let's have a look at a replay.
Just did a Josh Chin impression, really, but he saved it. Good, Josh.
Yep, so there is Brendan Lichtenberg. And the thing is, you notice he's going up from lane 2 to lane 3 to lane 4 on the power a little bit early. Gets onto the grass. That should have been a yellow.
Yeah, I think so. I think that should have been a yellow, and Tony Heilemann would not have been too happy about that. The likes of Andres and Dadley Inch, who cycled themselves out in the top 2 positions, they would have been very happy about that, though, as their drivers will continue to cycle through. Dadley Inch, even though he's in second now, he's going to be losing that position here in a moment because he's got Simon Bryant hounding down his backside as Andres continues to log laps, and it's going to be half distance after he does this one, but look at the pace disadvantage. I think Andre is really fuel-saving hard here. Look at the pace of Adam Dock as he flies by.
Yeah, he's about half a second slower right now. This is the highest we've actually seen down the end under green flag conditions in the Indy Elite Series. This is actually also, I think, the first time we've seen Andreas leading under green flag conditions as he comes on towards pit road right now. So he's coming into no fuel saving really for him because he's not going to be able to make it to the end. What about the driver of Danley Ench? Is he going to lead his first lap in the Indy Elite Series? He is. So down the engine number 52 machine takes over the race lead.
He's going to have it for a short time because Simon Bryant is just sitting right there. You also have Christian Steele, who's a couple car lengths off. Those slightly new tires for Steele means he's able to run about 1.5 to 2/10 quicker as we head towards 3 and 4. Let's see, will Dan make it 2 or 1 race, or will that 22-2 machine make short work of him before start finish? Dan's going to lead another one, but I doubt he'll get a third. Yeah,
but the issue is for Simon Bryant right now, the shininess has been taken off those tires, so he's not being able to carve through the field the same way he was earlier. Bryant will go to the outside then through turn number 3 and 4. Sorry, turns number 1 and 2 even. And Danley Ench is bringing that car towards pit road anyway.
Yeah, and that's a good call there by Dan, and he's the one that really with the interesting fuel number, I think, Will, getting past this halfway point. May have done a couple pit stops earlier in this thing to really help this out because, well, his track position was never really worth having to stay out there on the racetrack. As these guys are going to continue to fight their way for the race lead, is Steele in that 2 car. He's got the pace advantage. I think he's going to get antsy when he's able to close that gap.
Yeah, so the gap between Bryant and Steele, a third of a second right now. Worth noting, of course, that there's a 9-lap difference in terms of their tyres between them. So Steele, fresher tyres than Bryant right now, and this is when things start swinging back to that number 2 machine.
Yeah, that's the big thing, and this is also part of the reason, though, why I would have liked to see Steele hang out for another half dozen or so laps, though, on the racetrack before he came down pit road. Maybe he didn't have the fuel to do so. Certainly a possibility, but I would have liked to see that because you would sort of push the advantage a little bit further, and you might be able to push it out from a 0.2 of a second advantage, maybe closer to 3 or even 4. Yeah, you would have been further down the order in relation to that 22 machine and had to been reeling him in still, probably be half a straightaway or so back, but the pace difference would be so big that you would close that and then be able to make short work of him.
Well, let's have a look. John Downing, by the way, versus Henry Bennett. That one's going on for P number 7 and 8. And what I want to show now on the screen is the movers and shakers in this event today. And, well, Bradley Walsh is up 6th place. Andrew Kinsella up 19. And he is kind of in the same strategy window as everyone else. Downing up 8 places. and Adam Duck up that places. Now, the one driver who I'm still surprised about is Tim Holgate behind. He's not really done much in this race at all.
He really hasn't. I mean, he had some good pace in that opening couple runs. He made up some good recovery spots, picked up a couple positions, but he's sort of, you're right, he's just sort of gotten in this mid-pack and just sort of stayed there. He's really been stagnant, and that's really odd to see from that one car of Tim Holgate, who we're used to seeing dominate a lot of these races in the IndyCar, not only in the Indy Elite Series, but through all sorts of the different leagues and official sessions we tend to see. So for Tim Holgate, see him struggling just that little bit, it really is just a little disconcerting, and maybe some people have found some pace in the offseason, and that number one car hasn't been able to iron out. That said, Joe Branch, I believe one of his teammates, they've been quick.
Yeah, Simon Bryant right now on board of him, and he is just within the number, because we are looking at a number, I would say, Randy, of around lap number 104 to make it to the end. Because of the course, there was so much yellow at the start of this one, we saw drivers getting close to doing 55, 60 laps. I don't think it will be the same under green flag conditions. I think target is lap number 104. And Simon Bryant, well, he is just about going to hit that.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's why he came down pit road when he did. And the thing to keep in mind, though, that two machine of Christian Steele, because he went later on that run by 9 laps, if he does the same thing, he's going to be able to hit pit road, and he'll be out there on new tires. And because he will be pitting at lap 113, 114 instead of 104, he's going to be able to take a much lighter fuel load. Well, not much lighter, but he will have a lighter car on fresher tires than that 22 machine of Simon Bryant. And that's why I think we're going to really see that pink number 2 machine fly, because while they will have the same fuel load by the time Christian is out there on the racetrack, because the tires are going to be fresher, it's going to be an advantage, and because the car is lighter from the start, it should take better care of the tires over the run.
Yeah, if this was a super speedway, as Adam Plunkett there looking down to the inside of Noel McBride, if this was a super speedway, we say burn the fuel out and then come on towards pit road. Here's an interesting one, because you want to have the fresher tyres as often as possible, but at the same time, of course, you lose a lap and a half under yellow, pitting under green. So if you end up in a yellow flag situation, it's game over for you. That's the risk reward that I think that Christian Steele is going to have to think about quite heavily as we're staying on board of Plunkett.
There's a fantastic fight here for 5th as Plunkett is going to try to get to Niall McBride. Not quite able to get there, though. Through 3 and 4, you see that blue and white car opt for the bottom of the racetrack. Gets a good run off 4, but sort of has to lift out of it. Going to look to the inside in 1 and 2. But that bottom groove is sort of coming in and out during this race thus far. They're going to be side by side through the center of those corners, and Niall way up the racetrack might have to lift out of it. And that's going to allow, I think, Adam Plunkett to kind of slide job here, throw it into 3 and try to slide up to the racetrack in front of Niall as they come off 4. And Adam Plunkett, he's up into 4th.
Yep, so that was a good run then by Adam Plunkett. Up into 4th place, he goes behind. You've got Downing and Doc. They've been going side by side. Downing up into 8th.
A lot of movers here and shakers, people moving up this racetrack, up this running order as the laps continue to tick off. Still enjoying this long green flag run here. It's going to be Downing continuing to fight with Henry Bennett through corner number 3 and 4.
Whoa. Bryant's on pit road. I don't think he can make it from here.
Oh, no. That would be a long run. He better know something we don't.
He's hoping for late race yellows, I'm thinking.
Perhaps, but I don't know. I don't like that at all. I don't like having, even if he's hoping for late race yellows, he's talking, you know, if your estimate's right of about 46 laps, he needs to save 15 laps of fuel with yellows. That's going to be, what, 2 cautions?
Yeah.
3?
As Bradley Walters on lap number 41, I want to see when he comes on towards pit road now. As he stays out, lap number 42. As I say, I predicted lap number 104. As it's 1 o'clock and my lights have gone out.
Well, it is pretty late there in the UK. Still nice and sunny here. I'll tell you if the lights go out here. If the lights go out here in California, we have a major problem for NASA to try to fix.
Yeah, Adam Plunkett then on towards pit road, as he's going to come in. So, okay, now I really am focusing on Bradley Walters. He's on to lap number 43 of a stint, because when Walters come in, directly affects our calculations, because I think it means that Steele might be on the bubble as Plunkett there just gets a little bit of a a bum wiggler, as I call, out as he comes on towards outer pit road and puts the power down.
Yeah, so people coming on to and off of pit road still, as we're still just watching that 56 of Bradley Walters, one of the teammates. The question has to be, so it's been a while here as these guys continue to cycle their way through. No one else really looks keen to come down pit road. We've just seen those couple drivers, I think, and outside of that, no one's really down there. A couple cars with damage, but outside of that, no real kind of scheduled stops as race leaders, they cycle by again.
45 laps. So this is, as I say, it'll be very, very close in terms of what's going to happen. I don't think Simon can make it to the end. I'm almost certain he can't make it to the end. And unless he's just trying to be really fresh on tyres to make up time, and then know that later on in the race he will have the opportunity to basically defend because of the fact that Steele ain't going to have the tyres. But there's Bradley Walters. Christian Steele's ahead of him, lap time-wise. Worth noting that Walters is faster than Steele.
Yeah, and that's interesting to see, especially considering that 56 car, if memory serves me right, came down slightly sooner as it come past the pit entry once again. Neither of them look keen. Let's try to refresh my memory here. See, when did Christian Steele come down pit road? He entered at lap number 56. That was his first slow lap, 32 seconds, and then, of course, came back out on 57. So it's only been 42 laps there for that number 2 machine. So not quite having that fuel number. He's about 8 or so short from hitting that sort of 44 number, but actually to sort of split that difference, he needs to run about 4 laps right here, and then that should be enough for him to stretch this to the end.
Bradley Walters on lap number 48 of a stint. So it's showing that 3 more laps and Walters should be good to go to the end. Steele should be good to go to the end regardless. He's got enough fuel to do 1 more pit stop and be good to go at the end. Andrew Kinsella is in the best position right now. Now McBride has done 40 laps in this stint. Adam Dock's only done 29 laps on this stint so far. And he's only 10 seconds. Yeah, he's only 10 seconds behind the race leader as well. Don't discount Adam Dock in this race.
Yeah, Adam's going to be in a really good position. I don't know if he'll come out near the race lead in terms of time, but because he pitted that extra little bit later, yeah, he's 9 seconds off, which is a bit of a stretch as Bradley Walters is on towards pit road right now, so the window seems to officially be open at lap number 1. Might be a little bit more from lap about 45, 46 laps like we expected. Might be more like 49 or 50. And that 56 machine, I think there's no way Bradley Walters comes down pit road unless he can make it to the end from here.
Yeah, Bradley Walters is going to be in a game of maybe saving a lap of fuel. Maybe. Apart from that, though, I think that Bradley Walters is good to go. Now, this is the question. When does Steele come in? Will he do it early or will he do it late? Now McBride's on pit road. He's taken the early approach. Get the fresh tyres early and then basically use that speed and that momentum to push you forward in terms of times. Christian Steele is coming in and he's responding.
So he's going to come down and try to keep that undercut in check, and we saw this bite him last week as Andrew Kinsella is going to cycle into the race lead. Adam Dock is going to move, I believe, into the 2nd spot. So one of the cars that we are really looking at based on his fuel strategy is going to be a short stop for him plus new tires. So we'll have an ultra-light car. Adam will basically be in qualifying trim with the exception of the turbo and aero settings. Once he actually gets back out there and has that run to the end, Will, that's the main thing we're really watching for that bright white and green 31 car.
Right, Simon Bryant has gone past already in the number 22. Back onto track will come the driver of Christian Steele as well, who Bradley Walters is ahead of him as well. Now, Steele is racing Walters, and the gap between them, that is a very slow. Steele lost himself 0.8 of a second between coming onto pit road and coming off the pit road.
Definitely not ideal, is it? And he's not really going to have the tire life advantage he had on the last stint, so it's going to be a lot harder for him to reel in that Bradley Walters. And having to say, that gap to that 22 car looks to me like, Simon, that has to be a short fill. I don't think the pace advantage would have been there for that 22 machine to warrant that big gap we see. Take a look.
No,
at
it's the same fuel time
here. Okay,
but of course, no, don't forget
though,
he would have had to have taken on more fuel compared to those guys by a little bit. So you're right, it's
well, I was thinking he might have short filled because he couldn't make it
and hoped for yellow.
I
we're going Tim Doyle strategy there. I mean, Tim Doyle's a driver that used to come in, return to go when you've got a yellow, come in and basically be the hot knife through the field. I don't think that, if I was a strategy guy, and I've been one in the past, that would not be my strategy call. You've always got to make sure you've got enough fuel in case it goes green to the end. As Henry Bennett's on pit road, 8.1 out and away he goes then. Kinsella, I didn't mention it, he is now leading this road race.
Yeah, that he is in that 31 at Doc, like we said, the one of the cars we're really watching. He's in that second spot, matching that 14 car tip for tap. As we lost the one machine to tip. Nope, he's back. Sorry about that. False alarm. The one car is still out there. He's running third. And Lichtenberg, after that spin, somehow is still in a position to be in the top 5, even after only a few cars have dropped from that race lead on towards pit road. So now the big question is, when do these other group of cars opt to come down pit road? Because every lap they're out there on the old tires is a big margin that they're giving up. Adam Dock, just for reference, 23.5 this trip around the racetrack. Bradley Walters, 23.1. So it's half a second a lap, pretty much, the delta between the cars that are staying out and the cars that have already hit pit road.
Yeah, the number 40 machine of Adam Plunkett's having trouble unlapping himself from Andrew Kinsella right now. Taking him about 5 laps to do. He goes down to the inside again. Kinsella's running him hard, though, to be fair. You get to a point where it's like, you know what? Go on, have the position, especially if you're leading the motor race.
Yeah, that's the big thing here, isn't it? The teammates are starting to fight with one another. That's Brad Walters and Adam Plunkett. They're fighting wheel to wheel, both on slightly different strategies. But I think it actually ends up being 4 position the way it sort of works out. And Bradley Walters kind of flies by his teammate there as Steele has done a good job to reel in that gap. I didn't think he'd be able to do it. I didn't think the tire life advantage would really be there. That said, he gets held up by Adam Plunkett. But Steele is kind of flying out there on those tires. It was for him, a 23.1 compared to 6s for Bradley Walters last lap through.
Yeah, but look at that gap. It's starting to go up already, and that's all because of the fact that Steele has got a teammate. And all you do here is you just disrupt the dirty air.
Off pit road, by the way.
Yeah, he's off pit road, and he's behind the driver of Christian Steele. Worth noting that, you know, in the last lap or so, he's lost another 10th of a second. All you do is you just disrupt the dirty air a little bit. And Plunkett's doing a perfect job now of helping Bradley Walters put away.
That he is. Interesting information coming from the chat, though. Josh is predicting that Simon's about 15 laps short. So
I wouldn't say it's that much. I'd say it's closer to about 8.
We'll split the difference and say, well, let's look at it this way. At the risk of sounding obscene, I'm going to believe when it comes to math to the guy named Josh Chin.
I would bet you on it, but we're not allowed to bet here on RaceSpotTV. Tony Harmelin leads the way. Now, he does have to make another pit stop, and this is what we talked about earlier. He'll be on pit road in the next 8 lap time, and he's going to come out about P14 by the looks of it.
Yeah, definitely not great, is it? Is everyone's still
he's in the wall as well.
Ooh, that's never a great thing to have here. Don't want to have that, especially with your fuel numbers. That's going to hurt your top speed. It's going to hurt your downforce. And, well, if you just came down pit road and took a fuel number to come out and down, just go, oh, spin! We're going to get a caution. Who is that? That's someone spinning down the back straightaway. Michael Peters is around, and he's stopped near the entry into 3.
Yeah, and there is our yellow. So let's keep it then on this replay and turn our attention to Michael Peters. And there we are. Spinning around. He touched one of those team cars. But Michael Peters then brings out caution number 5 in. Yeah.
Oh, and Walters spun. Walters has damage. After that touch in 3 and 4, Walters got a big slide. I'm not sure if that was him trying to get the car slowed down or what, but he had a big wiggle in 3 and 4. He might have just roasted those tires if nothing else.
Good thing is, we talk about the fact that it's more heat cycle than anything else. You can cool them down for a while now as the entire field comes behind the pace car. Walters is coming on towards pit road. Almost expected. I think everyone should come on towards pit road. Bryant is on the lane right now. What about the likes of Christian Steele? I think, yeah, everyone is on pit road.
Everyone pretty much coming down. This is to be expected. Brian, especially, if he was 15 laps short, well, he's wiping his brow saying, thank you very much, I will take that. That said, it might be a slight, well, actually, no, everyone's going to have to take tires, and I think that's what's really limited here. Yeah. He'll probably be the only one taking fuel. And look at that, quick stop from the 22 machine, immediately off, onto and then off of pit road as he cycles back into the race lead. Walters,
Eek, Plunkett, Steele lost out big time on that pit stop there. Now McBride down 3 as well. So Walters now in the catbird seat. We're going to take a quick break here on RaceSpotTV. Back with more after this. Once again, photo finish here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerrick at the line. Well. Andrew Kinsella leads this motor race. Tim Holgate in second. That caution worked out perfectly for Kinsella and Tim Holgate.
And it did. So really interesting strategy here for all these guys coming through. As lights are out, we're getting ready to go green. Couple guys didn't come down pit road. Most of the field did. Let's see what the tires are like up and down.
Oscar Hardwick, go to bed. Green flag in the air one more time. Let's go racing here. And this is going to be a fun one at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Field's depleted a little bit, but look at the run that Simon Bryant's going to have over Tim Holgate. He tries, not quite close enough.
That's the big thing. That 22 car is going to be quick, and some of those guys that are fighting or behind are going to be costing themselves a lot of time. Brad Walters, Andre Zeke, Adam Plunkett, Christian Steele, they're duking it out as that 22 car is going to try to get up towards the one of Holgate, but the one of 14, very good speed, even with those old tires. Well, I'm impressed.
Yeah, and here we're on board of Andreas Zeke right now as they head themselves in towards 3 and 4 once again, and look at the run that's going on with some of these drivers. Andreas Zeke, though, losing out on the high side. That's a little bit different to what we've been seeing all day.
I think maybe just not having that setup quite right. You can oftentimes see the people who have the setup dialed, even if they're offline, they might be able to make moves, and because of that, you're seeing that somewhat struggling from that 5th place runner of Andre Zeke as they head towards 3 and 4. Let's see, the 2-machiner Christian Steele, he's going to go to the bottom and try his hand now at that 76 car. Going to pull up nearly alongside, but not quite there. They head towards 1 and 2.
Yeah, here they are then on board with the driver of Christian Steele. He checks up early into the corner looking for momentum off of it. Not able to do it. What about 3 and 4? Here we are on board. Dives down to the inside. Easy in the end there for Steele.
Yeah, and I think that's what you expect. That number 2 car is absolutely planted. It's been 2 races in a row. There's a lot of slicing and dicing behind. Niall McBride's involved with that. Bradley Walters as well as John Downing. That was on the run towards 1 and 2, and I think Walters may have just tagged that wall. He
did. It was a little tap, but a little tap's enough. We're on board with him. Yeah, he's okay. Well, I say okay. They almost go 3 wide ahead, and look at... that was by Downing. Very dangerous there, the way he moved across the racetrack.
Yeah, that it was. People are getting really aggressive here as we're inside the final 30 laps of this event at New Hampshire. Off towards 1 and 2 again. Let's see what's going to happen. Is everyone, well, because of that, they've gotten themselves spread out. So it's going to be a little anticlimactic in that sense, but I'm glad to see that that sort of stuff is going to sort of come to a stop, because that's the sort of things that 100% bring us to yellows as we close here, is Plunkett still having to deal with that 2 machine of Christian Steele.
Meanwhile, out front, Andrew Kinsella versus Tim Holgate. Kinsella holding his own right now in the number 14 machine.
That he is. I believe he won one of the Indy 500s back in May. I believe he actually won the Indy Elite Series 500, if memory serves me right. So Andrew Kinsella, has been a good year for him in 2017, and certainly doing a good job starting this one off. I don't think Homestead really went the way he would have desired, but be out here leading late is always great. Same story for Tim Holgate, and he cycled into the 2nd spot and holding his own on the old tires. I thought the teammates of Plunkett and particularly Simon Bryant were going to fly through this field to the front, but they just haven't done so. Steele, he looks up the 40 machine of Plunkett through 1 and 2, doesn't quite have the speed to get it done on the inside, but that 2 car gets an opening. He's going to walk by that 40, I imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth noting that Kinsella and Holgate were only on 5-lap-old tyres, so it's not as big a gap as we would have seen by others, and that's why I said they lucked out big time. Holgate right now, compared to Simon Bryant, this is a look at the lap gaps. And while Bryant's been losing time the last couple of laps, but that's because he was in dirty air. He's now in that kind of clean patch of air, 7 tenths of a second back.
Yeah, that is sort of the situation right now, and it's kind of where you want to be, I think, if you're Simon Bryant at this moment. You're not going to win this race just by going up there and getting to them right there, right now. Try to maintain this tire advantage, and especially, you see Tim Holgate 3 or 4 tenths off the back of Andrew Kinsella. He's going to be getting a big dose of dirty air, especially with some lap traffic turning up here in a moment. Let that 1 car eat up his tires, and then try to go get him once we get 10 to 15 laps to go.
Yeah, Noel McBride versus Adam Dock right now. Battle for P number 7 on track as they work towards 1 and 2 once again. Ahead, well, Christian Steele versus Plunkett. They are doing the status quo right now, but still lost out. Big wiggle out 2.
And not great is that 2 car right now, just not quite able to get around Adam Plunkett. He definitely has the pace advantage, I think, over the 2 teammates. He's quicker, I think, than both Simon and Adam, but he just can't get around either of them, and because of that, he sort of just has to sit there and chill and hope that when Simon decides to go and start pushing up near the front, then Adam can drag him along, kicking and streaming up near the leaders as well. Yep,
let's have a look. Retirees, by the way, Stouffer, Branch, Wood, Crescente. Long-term pit stops for Tyler Watkins, Josh Chin, Jim McClure. 18 runners of the 25 still running. That's actually a higher number than I expected.
I think the main thing is that although we had a lot of cautions, a lot of them were just sort of spinners, and a few people managed to avoid really hitting the wall particularly hard. Keep in mind, even that one we just had with Peters, yeah, there was some car contact there, but it wasn't a huge incident that brought out a major yellow or killed a lot of cars, and I think that's the main thing we've seen today is a lot of solo spins that brought out yellows, and why we still have so much of the field still running.
Kinsella versus Holgate. Kinsella is pulling away. Tim Holgate, number 1 machine, now 6 tenths of a second back from Kinsella. I think Holgate might just have started thinking, okay, this is too hard for me. I need to preserve 2nd place rather than going for the race victory.
And Holgate is quick. It was a 1.86 for him last time through, a 2.69 for Kinsella. So Holgate has pace, but I don't think that car is very good in the dirty air. It's that Sam Maxwell Customs machine. As good as the wheels are that Sam makes, they can't help you deal with dirty air, unfortunately, as they head down the front straight once again. I do want one of those wheels really bad, by the way, because they are amazing.
They are. If you send 2 over, we'll review them, just saying.
Yeah, I'll legitimately do a review.
I'll just stare at it because it's pretty.
That's all you ever do because you're awkward.
Yeah. On board of Steele once again versus Plunkett, and he's in a similar situation to what Tim Holgate is right now. Dock versus Downing, that one's still going on. Middle of the racetrack, switching grooves, and well, Downing, I think he's just lost out to Dock there. He has.
Yeah. Certainly not great as Tony Heilman's getting involved with that fight now. Finnish driver, we've seen him a while. Always liked seeing that car because the way he's got his name written on the side of it reminds me of the Ford logo, and being a Ford fan, that makes me very happy as he works through 3 and 4, still tucked under that rear wing. Interesting to see both of those guys through 3 and 4, Will. Neither of them side by side, and they both sort of just ran the bottom groove. I think if he wanted to, Heilman there, he could have pretty much just hopped up to the top and potentially put that thing around Downing.
Yeah, indeed. So it's Downing and Doc again looking like they might be going on a fantastic running down in your mid-pack. Didn't spend a lot of time talking about them in the long green flag run, but they have picked business up right now. On board with Downing, and that's close into one.
Very close into one. It still fighting to the top side is Adam Doc. Downing trying to work the bottom. We've not seen that end of the racetrack really work. Just due to the banking and, well, really the temperatures. We talked about it all day, and it's not going to be great for the tires either. That 20 car gets stuck down there. Going to be very tight off corner number 4, as your race leaders will, having to deal with a little bit of lap traffic. Kinsella got through it clean, as well as Holgate. Kevin Williams, they're having to put a lap down, and Kevin very slow down the back straightaway. I think just letting as many through as possible.
Yeah, and this is going to be the interesting part now for Andrew Kinsella. We can just see, as we have a look from up above, there'll be one driver that will come into play in the next 3 or 4 laps. Is Lichtenberg, by the way, ahead of Henry Bennett now. But similar to the last big run, now there's a 7/10 of a second gap between P number 1, P number 2, P number 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 4 and 5.
Yeah, that's really the big thing. People have really spread themselves out in this sort of final run here as cars continue to sort of ebb and flow together. Holgate settled himself out into a nice little gap, about 7/10 off the back of Kinsella.
Oh, Downing's lost it!
Oh, no.
We should go yellow. We are yellow.
Well, there goes the nice little gaps we just talked about.
Do you risk it? I don't think you do.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's not going to be enough laps. We figure Kinsella's, he's logging lap number 142 at the stripe right now before he gets to the pace car. That means it's going to be lap, what, 145 when we go green? I don't think tires for 5 laps. I don't think that's nearly good enough.
Where's Tim Doyle when you need him? Because this is his strategy through and through. Now, the issue is, if you're Holgate, you might get everyone else to come in behind you. With you. If you are Bryant, again, you might get everyone else coming behind you. But 5 laps to go. These guys are on 31 lap stints here. This could be very, very interesting as we keep an eye. There's going to be a lot of dummying right now as the cars work themselves through corner number 3 and 4.
I think I like the track position. I honestly do, because I think if there's any situation where you get a race-ending yellow, it's going to be when there's guys in the back on new rubber flying past drivers on old rubber.
Yeah, now these guys are really careful because dummying is against the rules here. Doc, the first driver in.
That 2 machine of Christian Steele and that 1 car of Tim Holgate, they might be under review because both of them were very, very tight when it comes to that dummy. I'd say both of them. If there's a rule there, I think they might have just sort of overstepped the bounds.
They're very close to doing so anyway. Adam Doc, as we say, the first driver in. But these guys, I think, are hoping for a wreck, and I almost think it's a hard thing to say. Fresh tyres makes it easier to avoid a wreck as one's unfolding.
It does, but at the same time, if they get a wreck, it means that they cannot slice and dice through this field. So I think if anything, the guys on old tires are the guys really, really pushing it, really maybe hoping for a wreck, especially Andrew Kinsella. He would not mind an incident happening behind him and taking it out. So I think for those guys that pit, especially Adam Doc, really first car onto and then back off of pit road, and a car that we've seen be quick today, he's the one hoping we stay green to the end and that he can pick up a half dozen or more spots as there's more cars coming down pit road. I believe these are all 1 lap down, however, or more.
If you're Andrew Kinsella, there's 2 things you need to know. Number 1, don't be too aggressive on the noisy pedal coming out, because I've seen so many people loop it on old tires here on a restart. Number 2, get 4 turns per second plus on the exit of turn 2, you've won the race.
Yeah, that's sort of the big situation right now. And for Tim Holgate, you need to try to time that restart. And the big question, if you're Tim Holgate, is after the disappointing finish last week, do you throw a big move if you do get a run, or do you just take this second spot, take the points, and head on towards week number 3? We have a trio of these 1-mile racetracks, which can be pretty much a cluster, and anything can happen due to the way the field and the arrow works. It's you know, the next 2 races are going to be much like this one in terms of strategy and what we see. So I honestly think if you're someone like Tim Holgate who didn't get a good finish, you might just go out, take that second place, and just let that 14 of Kinsella take the win.
You forget one thing.
What's that?
Next race is new car. He knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I didn't think about. It's, you know, and that's going to be not only a new car, but new car releases Tuesday, races on Sunday.
The 18th.
Oh, is it a week after?
Yeah, it's a week after.
My bad. So they get a week and a half. So a little bit of decent time.
Randy,
no,
you blew it.
My bad. We weren't even supposed to be doing this races, and then we were. Granted, that was my idea, so I'm blowing it even more. I shouldn't have said that on air. Now everyone knows.
Okay, we've got ourselves 5 to go at the line. Kinsella from Holgate, Bryant, Plunkett, Steele. Everyone in your top 9 are on old tyres. Adam Dock in P10, the first driver with new tyres. Pace car works himself through turn number 4. Getting ready.
I just saw that. I hate you.
For the last part of this race. Green flag in the air. Good start by Kinsella. Better start there by Steele. He's side by side of Plunkett in towards 1. Steele up into 4th. Kinsella. What a restart. As now Bryant down to the inside of Tim Holgate.
Steele's going to try to follow him through. They come off 4, still side by side. Off that corner, and there's a big stack up. Who's that behind Steele? That's Plunkett, who had to lift out of it. And Steele got a little bit of a wiggle. Adam Dock on the new tire is really struggling in the back. I think he may have hit the wall as we're inside now. 4 laps to go down this back straightaway. Kinsella, he's 8/10 clear. He has this race won, I think, regardless. Tim Holgate, he's coming under attack. 22 is Simon Bryant. He's trying to be on the move. Steele, he's having to run the middle groove, and Plunkett's having to go to the bottom. Everyone's fighting for clean air. Yeah,
Liam Quinn up into 7th place on new tyres. It's good, but not good enough. With 2.5 to go. Here is Tim Holgate. He's got himself a bit of an advantage now over Simon Bryant as they work through corner number 3 and 4 once again. Battle is now for 2nd place. On board with Bryant with 2 to go, Randy.
So 2 to go as Bryant is continuing to try to push their way forward here, as everyone's trying to do everything they can to move themselves up forward in this race. And the fight is still on. Christian Steele, he's, I think, gotten himself into that 3rd spot. Bryant's going to try to slice it back down to the bottom. You also have Plunkett there fighting. 4 cars all fighting for 1 spot as the white flag waves.
Here we are then. Last lap here at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. We've got ourselves a fantastic final lap. Kinsella leads by a mile almost right now. It's Steele versus Quinn. Quinn is trying to use those tyres. He's up into 4th. He's not quite going to be able to get up to the rear of Christian Steele. Andrew Kinsella, though, will work himself out of corner number 4. He's your winner at New Hampshire Motor Speedway. Tim Holgate 2nd place. Christian Steele rounds out your podium.
What a run there to the checkers. Absolutely insane racing in the mid-pack. And that 2 machine of Christian Steele sort of on the back foot. We talked about that, and for him to drive back up to 3rd, especially on that last restart, that was insane by that bright pink not so team afterburn car.
Yeah, Steele gained quite a bit, but Liam Quinn, those fresh tires, and this is what I meant. If you were 2nd or 3rd and you came in and everyone followed you in, golden ticket. But because no one in the top 10 did, well, it shows Liam Quinn had a fantastic run, but it's too risky if you're only going to be by yourself.
Yeah, it is a little bit risky. Is that 14 machine? He's going to be a happy camper, and he's going to start burning them down there at the start-finish line here at Loudon. Andrew Kinsella, likely a very happy camper to win round number 2.
Tim Holgate, 2nd place. Christian Steele in 3rd. Liam Quinn in 4th, and Adam Plunkett rounds out your top 5. Rest of the results then cycling through for you now. Some disappointments in the field here today, but you're going to have to say that Tim Holgate and Andrew Kinsella, luck helped them. They had to drive it in those last couple of laps, but luck really did help them at the end.
It really did. There was a good bit of luck there near the end of that, and really that's one of the big things even in this series, Wilt. There's a lot of competitive names, but you have to be at the right place at the right time. We saw luck work out for Chris Stouffer last week where Steele was dominating, caution put him on the back foot, and then I believe was it Kinsella who actually lost it on the final lap or on the closing laps last week that gave Stouffer the win?
Yeah.
So Kinsella could have potentially been 2 for 2, so he'll be happy to close this one out. Lucky not to choke 2nd week in a row.
Josh Chin, of course, we saw him crash and burn whilst he was actually towards the front of the field and behind Jose Crescente, a driver I would have liked to have seen a bit more in this race, but out very early.
Yeah, there's a handful of guys that you could list under that. A lot of guys out early. Same with Josh Chin, 107 laps down in this one. Imagine him in that final run to the checkered flag. That would have been a very competitive 93 machine.
Yeah, say the same about Christopher, of course, last week's winner, finishing down in 22nd place. Joe Branch, of course, down in 23rd place as well. We're going to take a quick break here on RaceSpotTV and on iRacing Live. Back with more and interviews next. Once again, photo finish here of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Will it be Tim Hogan? It's going to be Christopher DeMerit at the line. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to post-race coverage of the Indy Elite Series. From New Hampshire Motor Speedway, round 2 is in the books. Let's look at your top 10 once again, and Andrew Kinsella winning by 1.1 second, and we didn't realise this one when we were doing the call, Randy. Last to first.
Yeah, and it's sort of the opposite of last week for him, isn't it? He started dead last and got him ways to the front. Last week, he was out near the front at the end and then, well, pretty much went to last after that bit of a choke job.
Yeah, he is here with us here on RaceSpotTV right now. Andrew Kinsella, welcome back to Indy Elite Victory Lane.
Thanks, Will. Good to be here.
Okay, starting last place here today. Talk about qualifying, because qualifying seems to be a really difficult thing for a number of drivers here today.
So Christian and I and the rest of Absolute Power Slide had a really good qualifying set that was very, very loose, so I fouled up both of my laps and resulted in me starting last. So I knew that we had an equally good race set, so it was really just a matter of trying to work the strategy and the traffic and hopefully get myself to the front, and somehow that happened.
Well, the race itself, a lot of cautions early, a lot of strategy early. You played it well. Yourself and Tim Holgate, we were talking about it at one point, and we were thinking, okay, is this the right thing to do?
Yeah, when Adam Plunkett went into for his second stop around lap 90, I knew that I was pretty good to go, because that put me in about third place, and I was about 10 laps better on fuel than the leaders were. So I knew that I would have a lighter last stint than they would, and I would be able to hopefully reel them in and give them a run at the end. But then that caution came out about 5 laps after I pitted, and the only option I had was to stay out at that point.
Well, you get yourself back to victory lane, of course, in the last race in the DW12 in the Indy Elite Series. How does that make you feel?
It's quite the claim to fame, I gotta say, and I'd definitely like to thank everyone at Absolute Power Slide and Christian in particular for the help with the sets, and we had a really good race. Liam was up there as well. Had a whole bunch of guys who had really fast cars. Some did better than others in the race, but it was a heck of a race with everyone involved. The Elite Series is just producing some great races this season.
It's almost as if the Indy Elite Series is elite. Thank you very much, Andrew Kinsella, coming home in first place race victory here today. We've got Randy Chenner stood by with Christian Steele.
Here with the pole sitter and third place finisher, number 2 machine of Christian Steele. Christian, you look good all day, but a little bit short in terms of the position. Strategy, once again, didn't quite pan out in your favor. How frustrating is that?
Yeah, I was particularly frustrated when the caution came out there. Figured that the 2 guys that were in front of me were based off fuel, and I was the first guy, or the second guy maybe, that was good to go. So I was thinking, in terms of the long run, trying to be that fastest guy with enough fuel to make it on one more stop, and it just didn't work out, and that's racing. We'll be back at it 2 weeks from now.
Now you've still been able
enough
to
fuel to make it on one more stop,
the strategy not
and it just didn't work out, and that's racing. We'll be back at it 2 weeks from now.
You and Josh basically went on the same strategy, got put on the back foot. You've still been able
enough fuel to make it on
in the closing stages, and then had to do something similar in this one. There's an interesting line you had to run in order to get move your way forward here. What do you have to do to make that 2-car work on the bottom?
It was pretty sketchy. You really had to lift a lot and just modulate the throttle a lot, and you had to kind of avoid slamming the throttle on the seam of the corner exit, and if you did that, you could kind of get away with running it pretty quickly. It's not the ideal line, but they gave me a little bit more of the corner than they probably could have or should have, and I was able to get away with the kind of a Hail Mary there at the end.
Well, Christian, it's been a good run overall, but before we let you go, shout-outs, sponsors, are there any keen females who you need to apologize to for the 2 weeks of ignoring them you're about to do when the new car drops?
I'd like to thank everyone at Absolute Zero, Powerside Motorsports, Banshee Autosport. I'd also like to thank Virtual Racing School for supporting me, and yeah, that's about it. And I also want to thank Joe for running the league and for you guys for broadcasting.
Hey, see, look at that, Will. Someone didn't forget about us, or Joe.
It's only been a load of broadcasts today, but apparently someone does. Thank you very much, Christian Steele. I just want to say apologies also to some of the cross audio thing that just happened. Blame Facebook. That's all I'm going to say. Any final thoughts here, Andy?
Really good race. I think we sort of expected to see a lot of early cautions because that's what happens at all of these racetracks. Like New Hampshire, Milwaukee, Phoenix, you know, all these sort of these aero push tracks where it's everyone's just trying to find clean air. When the track conditions aren't, you know, exactly suitable like they were today, you tend to see the issues that we saw today of people getting snap overs here off the corners, but overall it was a really clean race, and I, much like you, was really impressed at how racy some of the different grooves of this track was, and it makes me really excited for the IR18, which is going to be the big IndyCar Etch-a-Sketch coming on the 6th.
Yeah, indeed. So thank you so much, everyone who's been a part of our broadcast tonight. We're going to be joining you throughout the road to the month of May here on the Indy Elite Series. That guy's been Randy Cheneth. I'm Will Vincent. So long from New Hampshire Motor Speedway.